because this is it. This chapter 11 and 12 is it, because y'all
Mm.
should be working on that third unit yourself, and hopefully we can finish this unit up probably by next week.
All right.
Chapter 11 and 11.1 and 11.2, that's not going to be very difficult. I'll finish chapter 12 today. So
Okay.
hopefully everybody will be good. All right, I'm going to hit the Excel spreadsheet. Make sure you can see this. I'm going to tilt this up a little bit where you don't need to see me. I need to see my screen. Okay. We're going to go ahead and, do you remember, look in your notes, Mr. Hill, how many did we do last time? 7?
Um,
You got your notes handy?
I got to get my bag out.
That's fine. No big deal. I'll do 8 this time.
All right.
So last time I think we did 7. This time we're going to do 8. So n is equal to 8. And I'm going to highlight this and make this bigger where you can see it. Tell me if you can see the numbers okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, you got it? All right, so I'm going to go with something like test grades. Let's go with 75, 76, 79, 80, 80, 82, 90, 95. Let's see how many that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we got 8 test scores. And first thing we got to do is let's go over here. I'm going to go way over here. You should be able to see everything. If you can see my screen, you should be able to see everything.
Yeah.
Is there any lag in?
It's a little bit, but it's not bad at all.
Well, that's good. Considering how many people are online today, since the whole nation is online, I guess that's pretty good. So mean, median, mode, range, mid-range, variance, and standard deviation. Okay. Well, where's my numbers? Did I erase my numbers?
Same thing.
No,
Yeah.
I think, there we go. All right, so we're going to find the mean. So I'm just going to highlight this, and we're going to add all those up and divide by 8. There's your mean. Now I want to carry this to 3 digits, because most of your books and tests and all them different things, they're going to want to carry it to, there we go. They want to carry it at least to the 2nd digit, so I'm going to carry mine to the 3rd. Okay? Most tests and homework and most of them will carry it to the 10th or to the 100th. They'll say type in to the nearest 100th and to the nearest 10th. This one I'm going to carry out to 3 because of that. All right, median. Median is the middle. Now, when n is a even number, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, you got to take the middle 2 numbers and take the average. Now in this case, they're the same, and I got several degrees, so I know that the average is 80. But I'm going to take the first plus the second, and I'm going to divide that by 2. And that's how you find the median with 8. And I'm going to highlight that 8 red. I usually don't highlight in red. In fact, I'll go down here and I'll find a better red. There's a better red right there. Okay. And the reason I'm highlighting that is because when n is an even number, you have to average the two middle numbers. All right, mode is 80. I'm going to highlight, well, I'm going to not highlight that the same color, but I'm going to highlight that a different color. I'm going to highlight that red, because that's the only number that's observed. It is not calculated, it is observed. So there's going to be times that you don't have one of those. You can have more than one mean. I mean, more than one mode. You could have several. If 79 showed up twice, then your mode would be 79 and 80, if they both showed up twice. Range, that's equal to the highest minus the what?
The lowest. So 20.
Mm-hmm. And then mid-range is your highest plus lowest divided by 2. It's also what's called the midpoint. You could call it the midpoint, same formula. So the mid-range is equal to the highest number plus the lowest number
40
divided by, I have no idea, I'm fixing to find out.
Okay.
Divided by 2, 85.
85. I was way off.
Yeah, that's fine. You got to add them. I think you might have subtracted it.
Yeah.
Now we do the variance. Now before we do the variance, I'm going to hop on over to my handy dandy document cam, and I'm going to reiterate the formula for variance. Variance is equal to the summation of x minus x bar, quantity squared, divided by n minus 1. And the standard deviation is always equal to the square root of the what? The square root of the variance. So I need you to write those two down. And I'm talking to people because most of the class is going to watch this video today. I am recording, yeah. So make sure you write those two down, because no matter what class you're in, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in probability and statistics or psychology, the standard deviation is always the square root of the variance. And the variance is the standard deviation raised to the second power. You can go up here and write that down. SD raised to the second power is equal to the variance. Sometimes the test might ask you, might give you the standard deviation and say, what's the variance? And you square the standard deviation. Okay? So the variance is equal to the square root of the standard deviation, and the standard deviation squared is equal to the variance. All right, so there's the formula you need there. I'm going to leave that. Well, what I'm going to do is, I can't write it on my screen because I don't have a whiteboard applicator on my home. This is my home computer because it has more plugs, so I can plug in everything. On my office computer, I could only plug in the document cam, and I couldn't use the TV screen that's in front of me, and I couldn't use the document cam with the mouse, so I just used my home computer. So there's some things I don't have on my computer. All right, so I'm going to slide this over here. It may not stay because when I click on the box, it may disappear. Yep. So anyway, if you look at the formula, I'm going to bring it up again. I've got to take the mean away from each one of my x's. I've got to take the mean away, x minus mean. I've got to take the mean away from each one of my x's, and that's called x minus x bar. So right here, I'm going to write x minus x bar. And your first column is called x. Got to put that. And I'm going to change everything to center because I'm OCD about that. There we go. And all of this row, I'm going to do bold and underline. So I've got to take away 75, I got to subtract the mean from 75 minus 82, and I'm going to hit F4, Fox 4, for any of y'all that know. Oh, I hate this computer. I have to look. And it's about dark in this dadgum house. F4. I think it's control or alternate F4. Let me see. Alternate F4, I think, locks. Yeah. Did it? No, it didn't. Okay, let me do control F4. I'll have to hold on a minute. I'm control F4. It's supposed to lock it. I don't know why it's not locking it. Function F4. Well, it didn't lock it. So I'm going to have to do it with each one. Equals this minus this equals this minus this equals this minus this. I don't know how to use my own computer. Equals this minus this. See, on most computers you have a F4 key.
Yeah.
And my HP has an alternate function, and I don't know which one it is. I don't know if it's alternate control function. Wait a minute, let me try shift. Let me try shift. That may be it. Shift F4. Nope. Equals this minus this equals this minus this and equals this minus this. Okay, so that's the x minus x bar. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to highlight this yellow. Let's go with that aqua color. Okay, and so I just did this right here. That's aqua. So I just did x minus x bar. Now I have to square that, because my square, I'll color that orange. Now I need to take my x minus x bar and I need to square it. So now I'm going to square it. If I could get my mouse back on my laptop. So this is going to be called x minus x bar squared. Parentheses x minus x bar to the second power. So I'm going to take this number and I'm going to square it. Raised to the second power. And copy that down. And now I just did the orange in my formula, so I'm going to color that section orange. So let's go back to the formula. I just squared everything, and now I'm going to take my green marker and I'm going to circle that. Now I've got that funky E, means I'm going to add everything up. So here we go. I'll highlight this green, kind of an off green. There we go. And I'm going to highlight and I'm going to add all those up. And my numerator is 334.88. So I'm going to go back to my, so 334.88 is the numerator for the variance. So variance is equal to 334.88 over n minus 1. Well, n is 8, so variance is equal to 334.88 divided by 8 minus 1, which is equal to 334.88 divided by 7. And when you do that, let's go to the handy dandy right here, equals 334.88 divided by 7, 47.84. 47.839. Because you're supposed to round in statistics and mathematics, you're supposed to round at the very end. So you might want to keep a couple of digits until the very end. All right, now there's my variance, and then what is the standard deviation? It's the square root of the variance. So I take that number and I plug it in. Standard deviation is equal to the square root of 47.83, and with your calculator, you need to plug in the whole thing. Okay? And I'm going to raise it to the 1/2 power, because that's what the square root is. Raising something to the 1/2 power is equal to, what is that? R7 equal to R7 raised to the 0.5 power. And that should give you, well, the square root of 49 is 7, so it'll be 6.9.
Yeah, that's what I got.
There it is. Now, as I said the last day we met, I think, these numbers right here are your indicators. The three most important numbers are mean, median, and the mid-range. Those three numbers right there should be close together, depending on how your numbers are lined up. Well, you can see a little bit different. There's 80 and 82, then 85. But since we're dealing with 80s and 70s, 3 is not bad. Well, 2 and 3, that's not bad. Okay, now if it was 72, 90, and 83, that would be different. So those numbers are usually always going to be close together. This right here is very important because it tells you the spread. Okay? The standard deviation tells you the spread. It tells you how, if you have a big standard deviation, going back to my handy dandy, if you have a big standard deviation, that means that the curve spreads out. If your standard deviation is big, then it's going to be spread out further. Your curve is going to be spread out. If your standard deviation is small, then your curve is going to be compressed. Standard deviation, small. So what you want is a small standard deviation. A big standard deviation spreads things out. And that's why you want a small, respectively to your numbers. So you're dealing with 70s and 80s, and your standard deviation is 7. So that's good. If it was 30, then that'd be bad. Okay? Now, how do you use the standard deviation? This is how you use it. And this is very important for you to understand. You draw you a bell curve. And you divide it up into 3 on each side. It's called 3 standard deviations. The mean goes in the middle. I'm going to put 82 because I don't want to deal with decimals. Okay? So 82 goes in the middle. Now think of this as 0 on the number line. What do you do to the right of 0 on the number line? Do you add or subtract?
You add.
You add. So that's going to be 82 plus the standard deviation is 7. So that's going to be 89. Plus 7 is what? 96. Plus 7 is what?
96 plus 7. 103, yeah.
And then what do you do on the left side of 0?
You would subtract by 7.
Subtract. So that's going to be 82 minus 7.
75.
And 75 minus 7.
68.
And 68 minus 7.
61.
Now, we're going to go ahead and talk about the empirical rule here because everybody should know it. The empirical rule, and I don't know if it's in your book or not, empirical rule. Very important. And here it is. 0.15%, 2.35%, 13.5%, 34%, 34%, 13.5%, 2.35%, and 0.15%. That's the empirical rule. The empirical rule says that these percentages are going to lie within these standard deviations. This is one standard deviation. This is 2 standard deviations. This is 3 standard deviations. This is minus 1 standard deviation, minus 2 standard deviations, minus 3 standard deviations. And I'm going to highlight this next part. 95% of all populations is what we call normal. Normal falls between 2 standard deviations. So anytime you draw a bell curve with the mean and the standard deviation, 95% is going to fall between 2 standard deviations to the right and 2 standard deviations to the left. Outside the 2nd and 3rd standard deviation is what we call unusual. Unusual. And then outside, let me get my red pen. Outside of 3 standard deviations is your Michael Jordans and your Tiger Woods and your Peyton Mannings. What are they called? Outliers.
Outliers, that's the word.
Yep. It's your people that are usually your dadgum goats. I use Michael Jordan because I think Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. Some people try to put some other players with him, but I don't think you can. But,
I agree with you.
And I don't think you can put anybody. The only person close to Tiger Woods is Jack Nicklaus. And as far as Peyton Manning and what's his name up there, Tom Brady, I don't think you could touch them two either. So, you know, you're always going to have a 6th grade, you're always going to have a 300-pound 6th grader or a 7-foot 2nd grader. You know, those people that just an 1800 SAT or somebody that makes 1800 on SAT, those are outliers. And then somebody that makes a 1600, they're unusual. And then somebody that makes a 900, they're normal. So that's the empirical rule. I would highly suggest that you put this in your notebook, and this is for the whole class. Put it in your notebook and make sure you have it. Especially make sure you look over it before you take a standardized test, because that right there is a standardized test question. If they don't give you a mean and a standard deviation, then it'll just have 0, -1, -2, -3, and it'll have 1, 2, and 3. If they give you a mean and standard deviation, they want you to put the mean in the middle and add it on the right, subtract the standard deviation on the left. So make sure you know how to do that. Now I'm going to do the 5-number summary. And after I do the 5-number summary, then you are done with chapter 12. So before I do that, I'm going to start with another set of data because I got to have more than 5 numbers, and 8 is not enough. I want to do like 12. So let me get back to this and this. And I'm going to go through the other numbers pretty quick. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to do n is equal to 12. Now let's do 13. That way I don't have to find the mean. Okay, so 12. Okay. 70, 71, 73, 73, 75, 80, 82, 83, 84, 85, 90, and 92. See how many that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. Thought I wanted to do 13. I want to do 13. I'll add one down here of 95. Okay, now I'm not going to do the mean and all that stuff. I'm just going to find the 5-number summary. 5-number summary consists of the mean, the first quartile, I'm going to move all this over. Hold on a second. Well, I thought I did the mean. Then, first quartile, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Second quartile, third quartile, and max. Now, before I do any more of this, I want to go back to the drawing of my empirical rule. Read the empirical rule like a fuel tank, like a fuel gauge. I'm going to take my green or my aquamarine. This is empty, which means 0. This is a quarter of a tank. This is a half a tank. This is 3/4 of a tank, and this would be what? Full. So when you're talking about the first quartile, you're talking about 25%, 25th percentile. This is the 50th percentile. And this is the 75th percentile. That's where these numbers come from. So when you see on a test and they're talking about the percentile, that means first quartile. This is the 25th percentile. This is the 50th percentile. And what is the next one? The 75th percentile. Now, the 50th percentile, that's unique. This is called the median. So you need to write that down. That's the median. So the median of 13 is going to be 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's that number right there. So that's equal to 82. The mean is equal to the smallest number. And the max is equal to the what?
The biggest number, 95.
Now all you got to do is find the median of the top half, and the median of the bottom half. Well, let's count these numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got 6 numbers. So how do you find the median of 6 numbers?
You go in the middle at 3.
And add them together and divide them by 2. Same here. Oops, I need to change that to a different number. I'll change that to greenish. So 73. This just a coincidence that they're the same numbers, but you take the average. This number plus this number divided by 2. And that's your blue. And then this number plus this number divided by 2. And that's going to be that green that I used. And there's your 5-number summary. And we'll talk about what to do with that 5-number summary come Wednesday. Okay?
Alright.
That's all for today. Now I'll put this on the recorder, and I'm going to end the recorder now, and you are welcome to go, and I will see